Hello everyone, Rosendahl here. Today's video is going to be all about the spear. I'm mainly going to be talking about the spear in the perspective as a secondary weapon. You obviously can apply most of this as if you were using the spear as a primary weapon, but I'm talking about it since I use it as my secondary weapon paired with something like the bow or the musket. So the spear has always been a weapon that has interested me because it has a lot of cool abilities. I think I enjoy using every single one of the abilities. For other weapons, you know, there's like, oh, some cool ones, but then there's a couple that you're just like, yeah, I'll probably never touch. But for the spear, I feel like you could use pretty much any of the abilities and enjoy it because it's just such a cool and fun weapon to use, and I think it's kind of underrated. So in this video, I'm going to be going over the PvE with the spear as well as the PvP. I will have sections down below where you can skip to a certain point if you have something just specific that you want to look at. But other than that, let's just get right into the video. So first off, I'm going to start with leveling. So like I said before, none of what I'm going to show you is like a set in stone, like you have to use this. All of this is just my opinion, and if you have a different opinion than mine, then that's totally fine. You guys can use whatever you guys want to use. This is just what I recommend and what I think is fun to use. So if you're still leveling in New World, I would recommend probably starting with the Impaler side of the spear. A lot of the abilities over in the Zoner tree are a lot of fun to use, so obviously you can go over there and use some of those abilities. But if you're still like early off in the game, I would just recommend just running with the Impaler. I would pick up Skewer. I think Skewer is really good. Once you get the bleed on them, if you have to kite back, because there's like a good group of mobs coming at you, you're still getting that damage and draining their health even lower. I would also pick up the Deadly Ambush passive, making you have 20% more damage against targets with full health. I then would pick up Perforate, strike forward 3 times, dealing 70% weapon damage, as well as applying Rend, which reduces the target's damage absorption by 5% for 10 seconds. I then would pick up the third and final ability, Vault Kick. So Vault Kick is probably, in my opinion, one of the best abilities on the spear. So you vault forward, kicking your target, dealing 75% weapon damage, as well as applying a stun for 1.5 seconds. If you have a Carnelian gem in your spear, this will also taunt. So if you are interested in tanking a little bit, you can put a Carnelian in there just to taunt the mobs towards you. I'm not sure if you would want to do that, but if maybe you're using the spear as well as like the sword and shield or something, this would be probably what you would want to run. What's so good about Vault Kick is once you get down into Relentless Blows. So this is going to give you an Empower after you hit a target below 50% HP. After that, I would probably pick up Finishing Blows, which gives you 15% damage against targets less than 30% HP. A lot of these are working together. You know, this one's going to give you more damage when he's at full HP. This one's going to give you more damage when he's low HP, and this is going to help you completely finish him off. I then would pick up Exposed Wounds, which gives you 15% crit chance against targets with bleed. So obviously, you're going to start with your bleed, therefore giving you 15% more crit chance. I then would get Follow Through, which gives you Empower on crit hits, increasing damage by 20%. So again, this is huge damage that you're going to be able to put out once you get that Empower. And then I would get Deep Wound. So the bleed duration is going to be increased to 15 seconds. So for 15 seconds, you're going to be getting that 15% crit chance against that target that has the bleed. And then you're also going to get that Empower when it crits. Huge damage that you're going to be able to put out. I then would get Exasperating Crits. So crit hits are going to extend the duration of your spear debuffs and damage over time effects by 20%. So this is going to make your bleeds last longer. Rupturing Strikes. So this is going to make your Rend increase to 10% per strike against targets above 50% HP. So what I would do is I'd run in, I'd Skewer right off the bat, instantly into Perforate, which is going to apply the Rend. If you happen to put out enough damage, then you can instantly go into a Vault Kick, and if they're below 50% HP, then you're going to get that Empower to be able to finish them off like instantly. So yeah, this is huge damage that you're going to be putting out, and they all kind of synergize together. I then would pick up Exploited Weakness. So this is going to give you 10% damage per debuff, up to 30% max. As long as you have 3 debuffs on somebody, you're going to be doing 30% more damage to that target. So again, there's going to be the bleed, you're going to get the Rend stacks on them, you're also going to stun them. Like, you're going to be dealing 30% damage pretty much always. As long as you have these debuffs on the targets, you're going to be doing 30% more damage to that target, which is insane. I would also get Precise Jabs, which gives you 5% crit chance on light attacks. Then Refreshing Jabs. All spear cooldowns are reduced by 10% on second hit of the light attack chain in combination with aggressive maneuvers makes your cooldowns come up so quickly. So aggressive maneuvers is the first successful hit on an ability with 2 seconds after dodging, reduces all spear cooldowns by 20%. So if you dodge in, hit them with an ability, all your cooldowns are going to be lowered. So what I tend to do is I go in, I use 2 abilities, I then roll, use the last ability, so then it reduces all the cooldowns. I then light attack twice, and then it probably at that point finishes most of the cooldowns. So then you're able to do it all over again, and you just rinse and repeat. So for these last couple points, I would say that you can kind of do whatever you want here. If you're using a lot of heavy attacks, I would say go over into the zoner tree, because there's a couple here that work really well with heavy attacks. I would take 20% damage against targets with grit. So there's a lot of mobs that do abilities that have grit. And there are moments where you're like in the middle of like an attack animation, so you're gonna hit them anyways. So it would be nice to have that 20% damage boost against that target. You could also get impactful strikes, which staggers the target if you hit all 3 of these strikes. I would also probably take continuous motion, so cooldowns of other spear abilities are reduced by 30% on successful hit. So again, if you use this ability as your last one, it's going to reduce these 2 cooldowns by 30% in combination with refreshing jabs and aggressive maneuvers. You're going to be able to use all these abilities pretty much immediately after already using them, which is so much fun with the spear. Like, I've had moments where I'm able to just continually spam abilities because all these are synergizing together, just refreshing my cooldowns, and you're just doing so much damage to these targets, and it's so much fun. It's so much fun. I'm going to go over a different build later, which is pretty much going to give you the ability to CC a target pretty much the whole time until he dies. He won't be able to hit you once because of all these cooldown refreshes. It's insane. So for these last 2 points, you know, I personally would just grab these 2 here. So deadly consistency and then refreshing reach. But I mainly want to get refreshing reach. So successful heavy attacks reduce all spear cooldowns by 15%. So again, all your abilities are just going to be up instantaneously pretty much. You're going to use your abilities and then be able to use them again and again and again. As long as you're hitting these cooldown refreshers, your cooldowns are pretty much 0, and it's insane. So yeah, this is pretty much a build that I would probably run if I was just leveling, not doing any PvP, just hitting mobs. So for this next part, I'm going to be going over expeditions. So for expeditions and like kind of grouped PvE content, I would definitely recommend kind of changing your build a little bit, because I'd say that this vault kick probably wouldn't be that useful in an expedition. I do know that stuns are obviously important. You know, you can CC targets, therefore they're not dealing any damage to anyone, but I wouldn't say this is the best to use, especially because currently the expeditions have a lot of mob density. There's a lot of mobs together. People like to group up like, you know, 10, 15 mobs and then just AoE them down. I still would take Skewer and Perforate, but I would probably change it to one of these abilities here, either Sweep or Cyclone, for that AoE potential. These 2 here will hit multiple targets if you line them up. So for an expedition build, it would probably look something like this. So this is like an example of a build that I would probably run in an expedition, because you have all these abilities which can hit multiple targets. So that's pretty much what expeditions kind of have right now, is a lot of groups of mobs. And all 3 of these abilities can hit multiple targets, and a lot of these abilities synergize together, especially with exploited weakness. Skewer's going to apply a debuff, Perforate's going to apply a debuff, and Cyclone's also going to apply a debuff. So all 3 abilities will give you exploited weakness at 30% maximum pretty much always. So you're just going to be dealing at least 30% more damage to all the targets pretty much always. That in combination with the bleeds and the rend, like, you're just going to be dealing so much damage, as well as making future damage deal even more damage because of the rend, and also exposed wounds, and all of this is just working so well together. And then in combination with the cooldown reductions, you're just going to be able to be using these abilities pretty much on cooldown. And I find the spear one of the funnest weapons because of the cooldown reduction. Because most weapons in the game, you know, you use your abilities and then you're back to light attack spamming or heavy attack spamming or whatever you want to do. But you're just pressing a couple abilities and that's it. But the spear feels so fun to use because you're using abilities. You know, you're spamming your abilities like other MMOs where you're just spamming keys, and you know, it's a lot of fun to use because it just feels so different compared to any other weapon in the game. Something you could change out is removing Cyclone and picking up Sweep instead, because you sweep a target's legs, dealing 75% weapon damage and knocking them down. So the knockdown is pretty great. I prefer to use Cyclone because I feel like it works better with Exploited Weakness. The only downside with using Cyclone is the spin attack does push targets back. So when you group up the mobs and you knock them back, that could be a problem because, you know, you just group them up and now you spread them out a little bit. But, you know, I think it's worth it. I guess that's something that you're just going to have to fool around with and see if, you know, the groups that you're running with are okay with it or not. But I tend to find it not really that big of a deal and no one really notices or cares. So yeah, I'd either take Sweep or Cyclone. Sweep if you want to put in more like CC. This is if you want to do more damage. Sweep is pretty awesome as well. If you do end up taking Sweep, I probably would remove Defiant Stance and pick up something like Merciless Strength, so 25% damage against knockdown targets. So you're knocking them down with Sweep, and then you're dealing more damage to them because they're knocked down. So Sweep could be a very great ability to use as well in expeditions and group PvE content. But I tend to use Cyclone instead. So for that build, you can actually run that in any kind of group content. So like invasions as well. I should have stated that earlier, but I just meant big group content where there's going to be a lot of mob density. You know, you have a lot of mobs together. Because when you're leveling, you most likely probably won't pull that many mobs because, you know, you're just alone or whatever, and you don't want to die. But in like expeditions and invasions, there's tons of mobs. So you want to do a lot of AoE damage. So that build that I showed you can work for anything with a lot of mobs. You know, you could also use that in solo leveling, but I usually never pulled that many mobs. So I wouldn't really need to focus on that. But yeah, you can use that in any group content. So this is a fun little build that I was actually running in high level content because I'm a solo player for the most part, and I'm up in Shattered Mountain trying to solo this content, and the mobs are like 3 levels higher than me and they hit so hard and I wasn't sure what to do. So I changed my spear build and it made it so much easier because I could control them with CC. So for that build, what I ran was this. This is the build that I was running. This build right here causes so much CC. So I'm using the javelin throw because I just want to knock them down. That's it, right? They're coming at me. I knock them down, gives me time to just hit them for free. And they stand up, I then sweep them. I then stab them with this ability. They get up, I stun them with Vault Kick. It then refreshes your cooldowns by 30%. Not the Vault Kick. I then have Javelin Throw up immediately. So I then Javelin Throw. He gets knocked down, he gets up, I sweep him. He goes to the ground. I stab him. He gets up, I Vault Kick him. Anyways, you get the point. You rinse and repeat, and they literally cannot hit you. They can't hit you. And, you know, if you happen to not have your cooldowns up because of this or whatever, you just quickly get 2 light attacks off while they're knocked down with Javelin, and it refreshes your abilities, right? 10%. If at any point you need to do anything else, you roll, which therefore activating aggressive maneuvers, and then you hit them with a spear ability, and it reduces all spear cooldowns by 20%. So you can even throw your spear, do your 2 light attacks, so it lowers the spear cooldown. He then gets up, you sweep him, stab the ground, right? Instantly roll, activating aggressive maneuvers, and then you Vault Kick him. So this activates, and then this activates, and then it just refreshes these 2 cooldowns, and then you rinse and repeat. Throw the spear, 2 light attacks. It lowers this cooldown and this cooldown. Then you sweep, stab him. He gets up, roll, Vault Kick, and you just keep rotating You keep rotating them and they can't do anything. As long as they can be CC'd, they will not attack you. It's incredible and it helps out so much. So I would definitely recommend, if you're struggling to stay alive, try this build. So for this next part, I'm going to be going over PvP. So first off, I'm going to start with small scale PvP as well as leveling while flagged. So for small scale PvP as well as flagged while leveling, there's so many different abilities. You could pretty much run everything. Like, you could run everything and it work really well. This is where javelin throw kind of gets introduced. Javelin throw, I think, is a great ability, but a build for small scale PvP / leveling while flagged would look something kind of like this. You know, I'd probably start with javelin. I then would pick up forceful impact. Targets are knocked down on hit. So when you hit your javelin throw, they're getting knocked down, which is great. I would pick up sweep. I pick up tenacious sweep. So grit is now active while you are using sweep. So this can't be interrupted, which is great. I would also pick up coup de grace. So basic attack while you use your sweep. You'll do a powerful downward stab that deals 125% weapon damage. So when you actually sweep your enemy and then press your light attack right after you sweep, you're going to stab the ground and you're going to deal a decent amount of damage. So this is great. In combination with merciless strength, so 25% damage against knockdown targets, this is really great. You're going to knock them down, which deals some damage, and then you're going to press your light attack, therefore stabbing the ground, dealing 125% weapon damage with this 25% damage bonus. And yeah, this is big damage you can put out to your enemy. I then would pick up refreshing precision, so headshots reduce cooldown by 50%, and deadly distance. Javelin throw is really fun to use when your enemy is kind of running away and you're trying to knock them down, you know, to catch up, or they're like they're like low and they're running, and then you're trying to finish them off. You can throw the javelin as like a last ditch effort. And when you hit these, it's so satisfying and it feels so good because you just like lob your spear and it's just so fun to use. And then I'm just going to pick up some passives here just to get to the bottom. I usually pick up this strong conditioning, 30% stamina regen when it's below 50%. So when you're dodging a lot, this is going to kick in, therefore boosting it up quicker. So you're not running out as much. I would also get restore 20 stamina on crit hits. That's pretty great. And then I'd pick up reserve strength, so 25% damage while stamina is full. If your spear's not leveled up that much, I would hop into the impaler tree a lot sooner because you don't have enough points to get all this. So after I get, you know, javelin throw down to here and then the sweep down to kind of like here, I then would hop over into the impaler tree and get vault kick. I would probably pick up precision jabs, finishing blows, and then pick up vault kick. I would probably pick up all three of the passives here. You don't necessarily need continuous motion. So if you want to pick up a different passive later on and you just need to remove 1 point on somewhere, I would probably remove continuous motion because I wouldn't say it's necessary for anything. It is nice to have, but I wouldn't say it's necessary. I also would definitely pick up unerring precision because 20% damage against targets with active crit. So for these last 2 points, you can kind of choose whatever you're feeling. Crippling jabs is pretty interesting. So your last hit on the light attack chain applies a 30% slow if the target's below 30% HP. So this might not come into effect a lot because you actually have to hit the second light attack, and they also have to be below 30% health. Can be very helpful in securing that kill, right? Because you slow them and they can't get away and then finish them off. I tend to always pick up aggressive maneuvers because I do a roll around a lot. So this helps reduce your cooldowns so you can throw your javelin more or sweep them or stun them. For this last point, I tend to pick up defensive stance because when you actually get a heavy attack off, it gives you damage absorption. I also tend to remove continuous motion like I mentioned earlier. I tend to get rid of this and then go into refreshing reach. So successful heavy attacks reduce all spirit cooldowns. So this is pretty much the build that I would run in small scale PvP. Not feeling javelin, try out one of these 3 abilities. They all work, but I would definitely take sweep and vault kick because CC and PvP is so strong. This pretty much knocks them down, and then you do massive damage to them. They can't really get out of it at that point. This stuns them, so you can do whatever you want then. You can stun and run. Big scale PvP, I haven't actually run the spear because I don't tend to get up close because my build is I run the bow or the musket, so I'm usually in the back. So me having a spear is kind of pointless because I'm not in there. But if I was using the spear in like a war or something like that, I most likely would not have javelin and I'd have cyclone instead. So I'd have vault kick, sweep, cyclone, and that's what I'd have. Because if I do maybe roll into the flag, because we're like trying to cap it last minute and there's a bunch of enemies, cyclone would help push them off the flag as well as slow them, and you're also dealing damage to everyone. So I definitely would take cyclone in big scale PvP instead of javelin throw. So for this next part, I'm going to be going over gems. So for a weapon gem, there's a couple options you can take here. The ones that I would recommend trying is a Malachite gem because 12% damage against targets with active crowd control. So that's a stun, a slow, or a root. You're obviously with the spear putting out so much CC always. Doesn't matter if it's PvE or PvP, you're always doing something. This is a very great gem to use if you feel like you're putting out a lot of CC. If you're not putting out a lot of CC, then I would definitely recommend even using an opal gem because 15% damage while your stamina is not full. This in combination with reserve strength is so strong. So 25% damage while stamina is full, right? So if your stamina is full, you're dealing 25% damage. If your stamina is not full, you're dealing 15% more damage. So it's always working with each other. Oh, you're full stamina, you're dealing 25% more damage, and then you happen to not be full stamina, now you're dealing 15% damage. The other one you can use is the emerald gem. So 20% damage against targets with less than 30% health. So this is very great to just finish that enemy off, especially in PvP. If you can get them to below 30% HP and you stun them or whatever, you're killing them. They're dead. It really depends what you feel like for armor gems. It's very much personal preference. It really depends what you think you're dying from the most. If it's elemental damage or physical damage. So yeah, you just kind of want to fool around with whatever you think you're dying from the most. Also, if it's PvP, it depends what's on your server. It really depends what you think you need the most. So for this next part, I'm going to be talking about attributes. So for attributes, I currently run 300 dexterity and then 100 con. You can go more into dexterity if you want that little extra damage. Diminishing returns on dexterity, like right after 250, it slows down a lot. So the damage increase isn't that crazy. You can keep putting points into dexterity past 300 to get that little extra damage, but I feel like I want more health, so I'm putting it into con. This in combination with food buffs, you can get to 150 con and you'll just have so much more survivability, and you'll also be dealing good damage, and yeah, it's gonna be great. So I would definitely recommend 300 dex, rest into con. So for this next part, I'm gonna be talking about armor. Currently run light. I run a medium chest, and then the rest are light pieces. So light head, light gloves, light pants, and then light footwear. And that puts me at 12.7, just under the 13 weight. If you feel like you're not surviving as well, you might want to put on medium. But I personally love the roll so much that I'm just not willing to put it away. I'm not willing to go medium. Tried medium. It does okay. I prefer the roll. I feel like I have so much more survivability that way. Like, sure, you have more resistances with the medium gear, but I personally feel like I live longer with the light gear because of the roll. I personally run light, and I will probably always run light. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's pretty much how I run the spear. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, I do run the spear as more of a secondary weapon. in combination with like the bow or the musket. In PvP, the spear is great because, you know, you use the bow long range, they get up close, you pull out the spear, you can CC them, deal some high damage, maybe finish them off, or CC them and actually get more distance that way. That's about it, guys. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like, comment, and a subscribe. Let me know if you guys have any specific weapons or any guides you guys want to see down in the comments below. But other than that, guys, I hope you guys are enjoying New World, and good luck.